You can just forget every other meeting on your calendar for a minute. Let's talk about the one room where a single presentation can literally define your career and shape the future of your entire company, the boardroom. We're going to break down exactly what it takes to command that room. Because make no mistake, for any C-level executive, this room, it's the ultimate test. Every presentation, every single question you answer, every moment you hold the floor, it's not just a status update. It's really a verdict on your leadership, on your strategy, and your credibility. So the big question is, are you really prepared to pass? Because showing up with a bunch of data, that's just the price of admission. The real challenge is commanding the room and inspiring this unwavering sense of confidence. So let's dive into how you actually do that. Okay, here's our game plan. First, we're going to really understand the arena itself. Then we'll get into the 3 pillars of influence: your content, your delivery, and your command of context, especially during a crisis. And finally, we'll pull it all together and show you how to go from just presenting to truly orchestrating confidence. So what makes this arena so unique? Well, it's this powerful and honestly often tense meeting of 3 big forces. You've got your forward-looking strategy, which has to answer to the really strict oversight of governance, and that entire relationship, it's all built on a foundation of trust. If any one of those pillars cracks, your influence just evaporates. All right, let's get into our first pillar, mastering your content. This is the what of your presentation, and it is everything. It's your foundation. Without it, even the most charismatic delivery is completely meaningless. So what does rock-solid content actually look like from a board member's point of view? Now, what's so interesting here is the contrast. You see, the most common mistake is to just drown the board in data, thinking that more information somehow equals more credibility. But it doesn't. The goal isn't to be exhaustive, it's to be effective. It's about moving from overwhelming your directors to enabling their oversight, from creating complexity to distilling things down with absolute clarity. So what are these metrics that matter? Well, they're the ones that answer the board's 3 most critical and sometimes unspoken questions. First, you need leading indicators that show what's coming around the corner. Second, you need strategic KPIs that prove you're winning where it really counts. And third, risk exposures that show you have your eyes wide open to what could go wrong. This is the kind of information that empowers confident decisions. Okay, so once you've nailed the what, it's time to focus on the how. This is the point where you, the messenger, become just as important as the message itself. Your delivery is what takes data on a slide and turns it into compelling, credible leadership. And your influence here is built on some really tangible skills. It's the confidence in your voice that just says, "I've got this." It's the deliberate pacing that gives your key points the weight and the gravity they deserve. And maybe most importantly, it's the narrative framing, your ability to turn raw data into a compelling story about where the business is headed. And this quote just brilliantly sums it all up. Look, anyone can present numbers, but a leader connects those numbers to the bigger picture. So you have to ask yourself, are you showing them a spreadsheet, or are you showing them how today's metrics are actually building tomorrow's value? That distinction, it's everything. And now, for our third and, let's be honest, most challenging pillar, navigating context. This is all about how you perform when the pressure is at its absolute peak. During a crisis or when you're facing down activist investors. This is the ultimate test of boardroom command. In these high-pressure moments, the normal rules get amplified. Suddenly, individual concerns and fears can make getting the board aligned incredibly difficult, yet that is precisely when you need it most. This is where your preparation, your content, and your delivery are all put to the test, all at once under the brightest of spotlights. Success in a crisis is won long before you ever walk into that room. It's all about proactive preparation. That means anticipating every single tough question. It means running scenario analyses so no outcome is a complete surprise. And it means projecting this unflinching resilience, proving you are the steady hand they need at the helm. And when you're right there in the heat of the moment, your leadership is really defined by 3 key actions: providing transparent data, especially when it's bad news, clearly articulating the trade-offs of every single path forward, and above all else, maintaining absolute composure. Always remember, your calm becomes their calm. That is how you build unbreakable trust. So, let's bring all of this together. Mastering the boardroom isn't about just being great at one thing. No, it's about synthesizing these 3 pillars: content, delivery, and context to achieve one ultimate goal: orchestrating confidence. When you master these pillars, you're able to fulfill the three essential roles the board truly needs from you. You become the translator, making incredibly complex things simple and clear. You become the strategist, charting the path forward with real conviction. And you become the stabilizer, that steadying force that sustains trust through calm seas and storms alike. And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. When you walk into that room, are you there to simply present some slides, or are you there to orchestrate a symphony of strategy, governance, and trust that actually moves the entire enterprise forward? The choice really is yours.